Politicians going back and forth over Twitter.
You know, this sort of straight up, you are my enemy kind of stuff on Twitter really is getting to a whole new level, at least beyond what I've seen before. It's kind of like watching a tennis match. Your eyes have to go back and forth to follow what's going on, except here, in partisan politics, the stakes can actually affect us. Let me show you some of the latest back and forth in this Twitter battle between these two Twitter enemies, quickly being dubbed the Twenemies. Here goes. This is what we've been seeing the last couple of days. At PressSec is obviously Robert Gibbs. Here's something he wrote. He posted a link to a New York Times story that explores the relationship that John Boehner has with some lobbyists. And he writes, headline says it all on GOP leader tightly bound to lobbyists. So that's one thing. He sends out that link. Then he follows up with a link to a graphic from the New York Times. And look at how he goes here. He says, don't forget this handy clip and save graphic of K Street cabinet. And then he adds, black and white photo doesn't do that tan justice. So he's actually going as far as making fun of John Boehner's tan. Let me show you the picture he's talking about, which has the graphic here. Let's zoom way in. This is from the New York Times. Talks about Boehner's K Street cabinet, some of the lobbyists and public affairs consultants with tight links to him. That's the picture that the New York Times put up there. All right, let's get back to this Twitter battle here. I want you to see a little bit more. One more from Gibbs. He says, story on Boehner covers some of his greatest hits, handing out checks from lobbyists on the House floor. Now, the Politico.com talks about what this tweet's about. It refers all the way back to the 1995 incident when the Ohio Republican at the time doled out some contributions on the House floor. After that, it was then outlawed. So I don't want to leave you with the impression that it was somehow an illegal thing to do the time he was doing it. All right, let's take a look here at John Boehner, what he put on his own Twitter site. First of all, he posted a retweet to what someone had said with him fighting back. Him fighting back, the New York Times story is a hatchet job, he said. Now, let's take a look at a link he offers you. He says, at press secretary, forgot to tweet about Dems meeting with lobbyists at Caribou. And he posts a link to this thing. Let's jump back over to the web. It's another New York Times story from just a few months ago. And it shows this, a coffee shop right near the White House where Obama officials have some meetings with lobbyists. And they explored the relationship that the Obama administration has to some lobbyists right there. And before we go, let's finish out this Twitter battle here that just keeps going and going and going. He also says, out press secretary also hasn't explained how raising taxes on small businesses will create jobs. We're still waiting. Now, Drew, I've been following their Twitter sites this morning. They're still going at this thing. So are they going to give it a little bit of a Twitter rest here? Someone going to throw in the white towel? I don't know. In the meantime, it is right out there in plain sight for you all to see how these two Twitter enemies are going at each other in front of the world, Drew.
I don't know what to say.
I know.
Actually,
I know.
it's so juvenile. And one side saying the other has more lobbyists than the other side has lobbyists. It just drives me crazy.